What's good, everybody? Chris here again. Chris Goes Outdoors. Today we're going to talk about this right here, the Hyperlite Mountain Gear 3400 Southwest. This is the backpack that I take with me now most of the time out in the hills and mountains in New Hampshire. And it is also the pack that I used out on my Colorado Trail Thru hike. So I'm going to take a minute to tell you what I liked about the pack, what I didn't like. So first off, simplistic design. I'm all about that. I don't need tons of excess pockets, zippers, and all that jazz. The pack itself is essentially a glorified roll top stuff sack. It's got a front pocket out here, two side pockets, and then of course it does come with shoulder straps and a hip belt and some nice beefy hip belt pockets. This shoulder pocket did not come here, but I added that on. I specifically went with the 3400 version of this pack. They make it in a 2400, 3400, and 4400, which I believe equates to 45 liter, 55 liter, 65 liter. And the 55 was perfect for me. I was able to fit my entire gear load out in here without issue. Multiple days of food, sometimes, and especially at the beginning of the trail. I think I had probably close to 10 days of food with me because I'm a psycho and brought way too much. Just never been good at managing my food. On top of that, literally, I was able to fit on top of all that gear my camera setup. So I was carrying a camera like this out on the trail. So when it was raining, it was always nice to be able to put this thing away into my bag to keep it out of the weather. And I was able to do that, place the camera on top, and still be able to roll down and close the backpack with room to spare. So for me, my torso size is 21 inches, which I believe falls right on the line for a size large and size tall. I believe it says somewhere in their sizing guide that if you fall on the line to size up, and I did that, so I went with the tall instead of the large sized up, and I was very happy with that choice because the pack carried great. My base weight on this hike with all my camera gear was probably around 15-ish pounds. But with food and some longer water carries in some of the sections, there were times where I was pushing easily 40, 45 pounds in this thing. And it carried great, no issues whatsoever. The hip belt was nice and comfortable. I never had an issue with it sliding down at all, which I was a little concerned about, as I've had an issue with hip belts sliding off with other packs, specifically the Osprey Exos 58. Shoulder straps were fine. They're a little thinner than the Z-Packs Arcall that I was used to. I think they're maybe an inch or half an inch thinner, but they worked well. Aluminum frame stays, no issues. They're not poking out. I've heard that can be an issue for some people. I have not experienced that yet. Everything worked well in conjunction with each other. So the aluminum frame stays transferred the weight to the hip belt great. I didn't feel excess weight on my shoulders. So overall, I was very pleased with how the pack carried. The pack itself does sit directly on your back. And I've had a couple questions in regards to how I felt about that overall. I have used the Osprey Exos 58 and the Z-Packs Arcall previously. And if I'm being honest, I kind of prefer it actually sitting directly to my back. So with the Osprey, the Exos, the arc on that was so extreme that while it did ventilate maybe a little better, I still felt sweat all the time on my back. I don't think the arc made a huge difference at all. But with the Exos, the arc was so extreme that it felt like the weight that I had in the pack was kind of pulling me backward. Either way, I didn't particularly care for that pack, which is why I don't use it anymore. And then the Z-Packs Arcall was completely adjustable for the arc, so you could arc it as much as you want or as little as you want. And typically I would arc it very, very lightly, just enough to keep it off my back. And I noticed no major difference in feeling of how it carried at all. I noticed no major difference in the amount I sweat on the back. And overall, it just felt better. It felt like the load was like directly on me. Worked out great. No issue with it not having any sort of arc or anything like that. So with the comfort and everything in mind, how the pack fits, might be worth mentioning, and you might be able to see up here, the pack doesn't have load lifters. The only reason I mention this is because many packs do. In fact, almost all I can really think of, especially framed packs, seem to have some sort of load lifter on them. And it's interesting because in my experience with the Z-Packs Arcall, it did help with the overall comfort of the pack. So once you get it on, everything set up, you could pull the load lifters and have your loadout kind of move towards you a little more. I recall reading or hearing them say it in one of their videos, if a pack fits right, load lifters aren't needed. And that was direct from Hyperlite Mountain Gear. I think they mentioned it on their website too, and in my experience that was the case. At no point did I ever feel like I was reaching up there being like, oh man, I wish I had load lifters on this thing. In my experience, not having load lifters was completely fine. Will it carry perfect for you? I don't know, but it did work well for me overall. So I personally went with the black Dyneema, which is a little bit thicker than the white version of the backpack. It also adds, I think it's something like 2 to 3 ounces to the overall weight of the pack, but is supposedly significantly more durable. And in my experience, it's true, I guess. I have literally no issues with this pack durability wise. The pack still looks great. I would argue it still looks almost brand new to some extent. It's a little faded, maybe from the sun, but you can't hardly tell that this backpack has even been used. Overall, durability, I've been very pleased with it. With that said, I don't particularly just toss my bag around and stuff, but I'm also not particularly delicate with it, especially at the end of the day. You get to camp, you just kind of throw the thing around, so. But overall, the black Dyneema has held up very, very well, and I would choose it again. So the Southwest also uses what Hyperlite refers to as hardline Dyneema. I think it's technically nylon with Dyneema weaved into it, but I don't want to go into the details. The tech specs of fabric kind of bore the hell out of me, if I'm being honest. How they perform does not, and these performed great. The thing hardly looks like it's even been used. The little pocket, it's got just enough stretch, and it keeps it nice and tight right here with the little elastic closure. Worked out very well for me. The side pockets as well, no issues with those. Those are all still in great shape as well. And more importantly, when I'm wearing the pack too, the pockets are cut to a point that I can still easily reach my water bottles. I have specifically not purchased backpacks because the pockets look like I wouldn't be able to easily reach the water bottles. And the Hyperlite, I can get them in and out, no problem. And a lot of times if I bend over to like pick something up, I haven't had issues with them falling out either. I was a bit worried about going with the Southwest over the Windrider version of the backpack because the Windrider has a mesh pocket here. And I did like that a lot on the Z-Packs Arc Haul. It just kind of let stuff air out too. And you could see everything that was in here. But in all honesty, I really like this. It kept everything that was in here nice and safe, and it held up really, really well overall. It gives a nice clean look too. Like there's tons of stuff in this pocket right now. And besides it being exceptionally wide, you have no idea what's in here, which is kind of nice, you know? If you're, I don't know what you'd be hiding out on trail, but to each their own. I mentioned that the hip belt on the pack was overall a very solid performer. It has just the 2 little things here that you pull to tighten it, 2 little connection points. The hip belt worked great. No issues with it sliding around. The padding was more than ample. There's no issues with it ripping or anything at any point. I also bought this pack right after they had changed the hip belt pockets, and the hip belt pockets are great. They're massive. And one of the biggest things I like about it is that it was easily open and closable with one hand. I had significant issues with my Z-Packs hip belt pockets, trying to open them with one hand. Overall, just very happy with the hip belt in general. The black Dyneema version of the 3400 weighs in right around 35 ounces or 991 grams, which most people might say is on the heavier side of ultralight. And I understand that, but it gets us into the grand ultralight debate. The size of the pack needed, the price of the backpack, durability of the backpack, how big the backpack is, how much stuff you can fit in there comfortably. And that answer and what you're looking for specifically is going to be different for everyone. And I think Hyperlite with this hit a pretty good happy medium for most people. Is this gonna be the best backpack choice for the super ultralight person out there? Arguably not. There's lighter options, especially if you don't need this type of capacity. But again, I feel like they hit a pretty good overall mark for everything. Relatively lightweight, pretty damn durable, decent price, and it can carry a pretty large amount of gear and carry it pretty comfortably. In general, I feel like they hit a pretty good happy medium for everything I would look for specifically in a backpack. So you may also be able to see the pack comes with a lot of straps. There is this one over the top, so it's Y-shaped. Nice to carry like a bear canister. Snowshoes on top of there might even be nice. But it's got this other thing here, this other strap, so you can close the pack this way and then cinch everything down. It's got one over the water bottles. It's got one up the top here. It's got these little loops that you can strap more straps to on the outside. In some ways it's good. It's nice that they're there, but I think most people might not need all of them. And personally, I just wish that they were removable. And technically they are with scissors, but I wish that they were removable, like you could just hook them in or something. It's one of those things where if they did make them removable, it probably would add more weight to the pack, but this water bottle strap down here, I will more than likely never use. And these ones on the side, same thing, will probably never use. I prefer to just roll it and clip it up here at the top. But the only way to get rid of them is to cut them off. The pack itself also has internally a water bladder holder, which again, not removable. It's sewn in, so you would have to cut that out with scissors. It also has a port on the outside here for you to run a hose through, which I also just don't see myself needing. I much prefer using something like a smart water bottle that you can just have super easy access to. Having excess straps and a water bladder pocket in port, not the end of the world at all. I personally just wish these straps and the little pocket inside were removable. Would have been really nice, but it wouldn't change my purchasing decision of this pack at all. So my only two real gripes with this pack, it is marketed as water resistant, not as waterproof, as most of these backpacks are. However, I seem to have been getting a fairly substantial amount of water inside of my pack in the rain. And I found that pretty odd in that in most of these scenarios when this was happening, I was also covering it with a pack cover. So it was really weird and confusing to me as to how water was getting in. All the seams inside appear to be taped. It was to the point where at the end of the day, out of the rain, there was enough water in there that if my quilt was at the bottom but wasn't in a pack liner, it could have been a rough night. So my only thought is that even with the pack cover, maybe it was somehow getting in through the little water port here. I don't know for sure. I have actually considered just putting a piece of Dyneema tape covering that port on the inside. Or maybe it was coming in through like the stitching in the shoulders or down by where the hip belt is. I don't know, to be honest. If it was just like light drizzle here and there, it wasn't an issue. But if it rained substantially, there was enough water in here that not using a pack liner, it would be pretty worrisome. So I would still 100% recommend using a pack liner. And then my only other gripe is the roll top closure. So unfortunately, they use Velcro on the roll top closure here, which you can probably hear, which, let's be honest, over time, it's gonna wear out. But the other issue too is if you're wearing like fleece or anything, and you put your arm in here, like this thing gets stuck to my fleece all the time. It would be nice though if it was just like 1, 2, 3 snaps, and then you could just snap up the bag and then roll it up. But I'm essentially nitpicking at this point. I don't have nearly any complaints with this bag. The water resistance, I had similar issues with the Z-Packs that was also highly water resistant. Little water got in, but not the end of the world. You use a pack liner, call it a day. The Z-Packs also used a Velcro closure, but by the end of the AT, the Velcro was fairly worn out, so I didn't ever really get caught on it when I put my arm in. Overall, I was super pleased with the pack. It worked outrageously well for me. Carried everything that I needed it to. I can use it as a day pack if I want to. Use it for an overnight. Use it for a long distance through hike, like the Colorado Trail. Even use it in the winter when I need a lot more gear than I do on a through hike. This thing is loaded to the brim, but I have been able to fit my winter gear in here. But either way, with everything I've said in this video, I'm not recommending this pack, and I'm not recommending it. Take what you see here and do your own research. See if you think the pack would fit for you, and then make the best purchasing decision for your needs. I'm not here to tell you one way or the other, so make sure when you find the pack that works best for you, find the best deal you can on it. And with that said, thanks for watching everyone. I do hope the video was helpful. I hope I didn't babble too much. These videos tend to get pretty long, but either way, hope you liked it. If you did, drop it a like. If you loved it, consider commenting and subscribing. You can follow me on Instagram if you care to, at Chris Goes Outdoors. Don't feel obligated. Social media is pretty lame. And we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.